Alright, what's up? It's your boy Taye, and of course this is my trusty sidekick,
The Guru.
Right, so
We wasn't supposed to do a show. We was going to just chill and be family and maybe Christmas and
bunch of crap.
I make a bunch of grand boy.
Eh?
Come on, good.
This is the first that I'm finding out about that, so that could tell you about the quality of co-host that I have, right? Over the last few days in Trinidad and Tobago, major news broke, and as responsible fans of sports,
Yes.
and the Guru and Taye have to bring in the scoop.
At least our take on this.
At least how we
scoops.
just see the thing.
Scoops is
So by,
chronological order of events beginneth.
by now, everybody in the world would have known that Trinidad and Tobago lost 2 medals that we won at the PanAM Games in 2019 in Lima. These are 2 cycling medals. The team sprint medal,
Team sprint gold
And
and
the-
mat sprint silver.
individual sprint, right? So these medals have been reallocated, which is the long way of saying we've been stripped of those medals. So what we're here to do tonight, today,
Make
is
sense
whenever
of it.
you're seeing it, is to make sense of some of these things.
Got a lot of rumors. A lot of people have a lot of opinions going on. Some of them right, some of them wrong, some of them kind of not conclusive, some of them besides being inconclusive, some of them really don't know what they're talking about.
And I have to say this, I've been working, this is now the 3rd newspaper. I've committed the holy trinity of newspapers in Trinidad and Tobago. I started at the Express in 1996, I worked at the Guardian, and now I'm at the Newsday. And I'll have to say that I'm very disappointed with mainstream media coverage of this story.
Yeah. Well, and the main reason for that is because most reporters, quite honestly, would not have a deep understanding or deep enough understanding of what it has actually happened or some of the processes, the procedures, and all of that. So they altered it.
You can't expect better, to be honest with you.
You can't expect better. And I don't blame them, but that tells you, newspapers, that you need to hire better sport reporters or just generally better reporters, people who actually can work these things out, have a level of intelligence.
Heat boy, Chris.
Yeah, boy, heat. You gotta wipe down. Alright.
So I'm going to throw this across there. And that heat is both in a figurative sense as well as in a logistics and a real sense.
Chronological
This
order of
thing
events.
have to break down. First of all, we have been advised to not name the athlete. So we know that's a kind of bummer, but
Yeah, boy.
the rumors could go out. But at the end
Anybody,
of the day,
anybody
we
with,
want to.
anybody with a little bit of sense can figure out
Right. But
what the name is.
But you know what? We're not going to name the athlete.
Yeah,
involved,
we going along with everybody and the charade and pretend that we can name the athlete. And,
No, we're not pretending that we can't name the athlete. We've been advised to not name the athlete. And the reason being is because this matter is still sub judice, which means it's still in the process of being before the courts. And there are matters that when you discuss it in public, it will affect the outcome, regardless of where it is. This matter right now is at the point where
you didn't think nothing we say affecting the outcome, but go ahead.
that is an
Nothing
opinion.
we say will affect the
But
outcome.
that's the reason why, and we're not gonna go and pretend that that is not so.
Hold up, let me
Alright,
get to
so
these things.
let's do some chronology.
Chronology. They wrote the event
In July.
I think the team sprint might have been written August 1st.
Okay.
They would have been tested. This is not an abnormal thing for ATA games.
All the medalists would be tested.
All the medalists
and
would be
2 other
tested.
random samples would usually be taken,
Tested, right.
depending on how much budget you have, because each test costs. Each
Yeah.
test costs an average of about $500 US,
give or take.
on average, right?
Not only that,
Which is your first test.
right, which is your first test. Now, along with all of that, based on my information, a lot of Trinidad cyclists would have been tested. And again, what usually organizations tend to do, or sometimes WADA or whoever the anti-doping is, they might target the teams that are most successful. That's just the reality of it. That's how it goes.
You win, you get tested.
You get tested
You
more
pee,
often.
you get injections, you draw blood. That's just
Right?
reality.
Usually 2 in and out of competition tests generally are more common for teams that are doing well. So for example, in our region, Trinidad, Colombia, in cycling, they would get tested more often than somebody like St. Vincent or Barbados. Barbados have no cyclists anyway.
So our cycling team would have submitted a urine sample at the end of their
event,
gold medal, right?
And quite possibly at the end of the match sprint and
at the end of every ride, because these are in competition tests. Every medalist will get tested. That's just normal. So nobody picking on Trinidad and Tobago. Nobody finding, hey boy, you looking? No, that's just procedure.
They would have found a positive
10 days later.
Well, no, they would have found an adverse analytical finding is what it's called. The rider would have been notified. Now this is where we are making the assumption here, but the rider would have been notified for sure.
Right. Now, this is what is going on. The TTCF, the Cycling Federation, has issued a statement through their PRO.
Yes. That
they have no knowledge of any of these events. That is what they're saying. They have no official notice of any of this.
Which we'll come to a little later, which I find a little strange. Anyhow.
Second,
the TTOC,
the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, who is the sanctioning body for the Trinidad and Tobago team at the PanAM Games,
and the people who entered everybody in the PanAM Games, they would have been informed. There's no two ways about it.
Right. But
more than likely, the chef de mission would have been informed, or more than
usually.
Likely.
However, the TTOC has issued a statement. We've emailed the president of the TTOC, and the president of the TTOC has basically said they are not going to comment on these.
And that's fine.
That is also procedural. We expected that.
That's procedural. Once informed, the TTOC, by proper protocol, is supposed to keep the information confidential.
Everyone in the reporting chain is bound by confidentiality, including the Pan American Games organization.
Right. The rider, upon receiving the status that his test would have been come back, he had an adverse finding, could have, and in this case may have, requested his B sample be tested. Now they always split the samples when you take a urine test. There's an A and a B. The A test, if it comes back positive, you have the option of requesting your B sample tested. It is rare, and now especially with how stringent the tests are, I will go so far as to say it has not happened in recent times where your A sample tests positive and your B sample comes back negative. So he would have tested his B sample,
right,
or asked for that to be tested. As Dennis noted when we were coming out in the car, that test is always much more stringent and in-depth than the initial test.
Level up. So what happens is, let's say you're just using the cost. That test might cost anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, maybe even $5,000, depending on what substance would have turned up in your first A sample testing. Right? So your adverse analytical finding is basically the first one. A sample is going to say, okay, boop, boop, we have something here. Your B test is going to tell you exactly what it is. It's going to tell you the volume, the blood, how much units of blood, or in this case urine, as the case may be. This will always tell you in much more detail what is going on, the quantities that are involved. Now, which brings us to the other point.
Which is?
Are we going to say what's the substance?
Well, the substance, it is alleged.
Right. It is alleged. It is alleged.
It is not a performance enhancing substance.
Right. So it's not big gear. It's not dope. It is not steroids. It's nothing with that oldenone or eldenine. It have nothing like that. It's have no names that you can't pronounce. Nothing like that. You know what it is? Weed.
It is alleged.
Cannabis.
It is alleged.
Spliff.
It is alleged. It is alleged.
It is alleged. Right. So
alleged.
what we have
I don't know that for sure, but it is strongly alleged.
Right. So what we have is a situation where an athlete is usually not sanctioned the same way you would have tested positive if you use something like a performance enhancing drug.
Yeah. The current standards for if it is cannabis, the current standards for cannabis are the general length of sanctions for cannabis.
2 to 6 months.
2 to 6 months.
2 to 6 months. Okay,
right.
So
and that's currently, and it you have to say a lot of times many they tend to lean towards the lenient side of things, to be quite honest. So
right.
It's rare for somebody who has been found with cannabis, they get 6 months. More than likely, they get 3 months. They might get 2 months.
Right. But you know what? We're not on that adjudication committee. We're not on that. So we don't know what you would have gotten. We don't know. But you know what we can say is that typical...
jumping the gun because even after the B sample is deemed positive, and that's the result, and the rider is then notified, and or the TTOC as well is notified.
The notification list, basically.
Then the procedure is supposed to be that the Anti-Doping Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, which does not exist,
Which exists in paper.
let me point that out, which does not exist, and that in itself is a travesty of justice. Does not exist. We have convened a panel to overlook the test and the data and so forth, and propose sanctions that would then have to be ratified and so on. That is the normal procedure.
Right, so people who would have
And
been watching the show...
all of this would have been done in absolute strict confidence.
Right.
And only it might have come out after the rider might have been sanctioned. That generally might have been when the information might have been released.
So watchers of this show would have known that we would have already discussed Michelle Liahi's positive analytical finding. Actually, it was
just
a
missing.
missed test,
She was just
right?
missing.
Which is considered
MIA.
a missed test. So it is not the same as a positive analytic finding, but it's treated the same way.
Yeah.
And we would have also discussed Brianna Williams's positive for
some cold medicine.
right.
She take Vicks.
Fluorosamide or whatever. It's
basically what
a diuretic.
Right.
So we would have discussed what typically happens. So we understand that this procedure, you would reach to the A test, B test, then you would have a time to face your tribunal, or you accept it and you accept your sanctions, depending on what. Or you go to the next level of appeal at the Court of Arbitration of Sport, which is basically
Now this is where things get tricky, because there have been comments about the fact that the Pan American Sport Organization did not or decided to not follow
there are irregularities.
Or is not following the thing, and I don't know if I quite agree with that, because the Pan American Sport Organization is not attempting to sanction a rider or a athlete over or sanction them in terms of how WADA sanctions them or how their NOC will sanction them. All this Pan American Sport Organization is saying is, we have a sample that's positive, a B sample that's positive in the case of X athlete, and therefore we are disqualifying you from these games. And that's it. And therefore, all results that you have done during these games are now voided.
Right.
And
So
we are not interested in whether you, even if it is, for example, that said athlete then goes back to his home, as there's a case with the Brazilian judo Olympic champion. Her name is Rafaela de Silva. I might have the name wrong. So she was disqualified from the games gold medal, but she has already put in a case where, and most people think she will get away with it, whether or not it's true, that what she picked up and what tested positive for her was asthma medicine that her niece had, and chances are the last time somebody got tainted with that drug or caught, they only got like 8 months or whatever, and chances are Brazil anti-doping might say, look, you know what, we accept your excuse.
internationally, a big case like that would be Alberto Contador and that Spanish beef.
Yes.
Right, so it tested for clenbuterol. They usually use clenbuterol to lean out the beef.
Yeah.
So it's possible. And you know what? They made the case and it went. So any mark could happen. So what has happened though is that there is some, there's a bit of contention of whether it is in fact at the CAS level or if it's not. We want to say tonight that it is definitely being appealed. Right?
We don't know.
We have not, no, we got in touch with the attorney who is representing the athlete in question, and due to procedural issues, he basically said, this is the attorney, prominent sports attorney Tyrone Marcus. He has basically said he is unable to comment. And the quote would be,
I can't comment.
no, it's not that.
I cannot.
Hey Dennis, thanks for your email.
Comment.
These are some really insightful questions. The answers for which
that is
will have to come at a later time to ensure.
Marcus, you have a girl?
Man, I reading boy. I have no manners.
That man, mama guy, you.
Gill, pops, deal with that. Right? To ensure that I do not compromise what is an active appeal before the Court of Arbitration of Sport, which is basically CAS. Alright? We also asked them some other questions, but basically what will happen is when this procedure is actually has completed, we will be able to get all of these comments, both from the athlete, from the attorney in question.
And you could probably look up on CAS and you'll be able to see the result because they
maybe.
Now here's an interesting thing
because some matters are dealt with in camera and they're not public hearings.
No, the hearing might be public, but the result of the hearing will be public.
No. Look what happened with Casta Semenya. Some of the judgments were redacted. So what happens is, depending on, look at what happened with, remember Kellyanne Batiste? What she test positive for? You know? I don't know. You know why? Seal. The court can seal documents.
Okay, I didn't know that. See, I learned something. Now here's an interesting thing about the whole CAS story. The first thing is, how long will it take? That in itself is just a very good question.
Which brings us to the other thing. What is going on here? Is this a bid for time?
Now, based on research and a couple of questions asked here and there, chances are, just being very, very general, that hearing may not come up for at least another 3 months.
Right. So look at the timeline. July, January, we are almost in January, 10 minutes into January almost. Right? By the time you see this, we would be in January.
Yeah.
Right? And you're talking about maybe March, maybe even April. Right?
Let me say June. Let me say they come back with a decision in June.
Why? I'm pretty sure this would have been. They would expedite this to before you will.
But you feel it and have plenty other things to be expedited.
No, I mean you pay money and you get anything expedited.
Chelsea matter before CAS. Celta Vigo something them before CAS.
You really feel they want that result? I don't think they want them to resolve.
Chelsea have money, billion.
I think maybe they have more money to lose if they
get
negative a judgment
the
against
Russian
them.
Federation has appealed the decision of WADA. That's going to come up before CAS.
Exactly. So what we're seeing here is there is not going to be any haste to reach to this conclusion.
That's the first thing.
For our Trini boy.
But a question I would like to ask Tyrone Marcus, he must be looking at, if you look at this program, you'll say, that is a good question, Chris Gill. That is a good question. That's what you're going to say. No, mama guy. Is it that Mr. Marcus is going to appeal the actual finding so that the finding is now determined as a negative?
Right, so that's another question here. What is the legal strategy? Now, obviously, we cannot discuss that because, quite frankly, we don't know. But what we could do is we could speculate on some of the things that we expect to be coming up here. Now, we can't talk about the details. We don't know those details. No one has confirmed that. Not TTOC. The TTOC has basically said that they are not a party of this matter. They are not an active party.
I believe that.
The Cycling Federation say they don't know, so obviously they cannot be a party to this either. Sports company is also
they will never be here.
So this is an individual represented by a private attorney taking a matter straight up the chains. Right? So what we can try to figure out is why what is happening the way it is. Like we said originally, this is not going to be, you're not going to be banned for 2 years for this. So
no,
why not take
2 to 6 months?
Why not say, all right, you know what? Busted, got me caught. By the end of summer, you're riding again.
Well, let's take it back a second because that is a good thing you bring up. If, let's say, if the person had decided, the athlete had decided on when he was notified, which is 10 to 15 days after the test, so let's say August 15, just to be safe, he had decided, you know what, I am accepting the sanction or I am accepting the result of the A sample, and he did that, and then WADA was informed, and WADA decided to give him a 2 to 3 month suspension. What would have happened was you would have probably had that athlete not being able to ride PanAM Championships, which is different from PanAM Games, which carries points that they needed to go to the Olympics. But the only other competition there would have been Colombia. So we could have ridden our B team at that PanAM Championships, collected points, very good points, and quite possibly right now, when all the World Cup started, have all our riders available and in the clear without issue. Now it's possible. I'm not saying it's
so we would have only missed one major cup.
We would not miss it. We would have ridden it.
PanAM?
We would have ridden PanAM Championships with a team that would have gotten points. They might not have won, but they would have gotten points. They would have probably gotten second place. And
this is without the athlete in question.
Without the athlete or athletes in question, I don't know. But we would have been able to ride, and then we would have had the athlete there, more than likely, available, cleared, and available to race without any major issues at this point.
At the World Cups.
At the World Cups, which is what really matters. And then, heading into the World Championships and so on and so forth.
So
I suppose maybe I'm just being a bit naive. Maybe there's more information to come at hand that might negate all of that theoretical. I know.
Did you set the timer?
I did set the timer. I did.
Alright, so one of the questions obviously is the legal strategy that is being employed here. We don't understand what is going on. It doesn't mean that it is either right or wrong or anything at all.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all.
But we just don't get it. We just do not understand.
Yeah.
Right?
So you know what? So that leads us to a couple of questions. As I said, you have to think either the lawyer is going to try one of the whatever strategy he's using. It's one of two things. Either he's going to attempt to make the positive findings that are positive, if that's what they say they are. They're going to try to make those a negative, and or if it is that it is positive and they've decided to accept as a positive, try to appeal so that there's zero sanctions applied. Right, look, there's a warning based on the limits that were found or whatever. We just getting a slap on the wrist and go your way. That could also be a strategy, and nothing is wrong with that. As a lawyer, that's what you're supposed to do. You have to fight for your client in the best way possible, and that's what I expect you to do.
Right. How much time now?
7 minutes.
Yeah, going again. Alright, so that's where we've reached with that. The other question that arises is, what did the Cycling Federation do?
Woohoo!
Right, so we have some information. Chris, you want to share that?
We have information that we have information that approximately a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, it was brought up in a general council meeting that the riders in question, or riders that form part of the team sprint, that it was alleged by whoever, somebody brought it to council and said, listen, I understand these guys might be
consuming marijuana,
consuming or smoking, and they wanted, or they asked for an investigation, or asked at least the upper echelons of the federation, which would be the executive committee, to commit to making inquiries. It is also known that at executive meeting they had a meeting and discussed the matter, and that it is also alleged that the former president tried to have tests done and it did not happen. So it's not that the problem was unknown to the federation. Problem, or at least they knew that somebody, or they were told it could be happening. The reality of it is, my question is, did they do all that they should have done to make sure, one, it was or was not happening, and if it was happening, to then deal with the matter in terms of counseling, sorting it out so that what has happened now didn't happen or wouldn't happen.
Right. Now, in the background of all of that, WADA has a threshold for cannabinoids. In other words, there's a minimum that you can legally test for.
Yeah.
That they will have absolutely no sanction and will not come up as an adverse analytical find. And that number varies with your metabolism and varies with your usage. So let's assume that you go to
number that
no. The number, meaning your number coming up in your bloodstream or in your urine, will vary.
But the
So,
number have is
WADA's hard number is 150 nanomoles per milligram.
something like
that, right? We'll put it in the show notes so that you can see face off. But it's basically a number 150. As we understand, this test was not significantly over that, but it was over that.
It might, well, obviously if they called it positive, it would be over that.
Now, what happens is this. Are you going to be saying that this person is a wake and baker? How are you categorizing use? This is something that is going to come up, obviously. What is legal use? What is recreational use? How do you profile an athlete? And a lot of what I've seen on social media, a lot of people have expressed disappointment in the athlete. How you could do that? And listen, there are many different reasons why someone will be using cannabis.
I have no doubt.
Right? And the idea of what really happened on that day, maybe the days before, how it got out of his system. These are things that the athlete himself will have to address. And guess what? He has committed to making a public disclosure on some of these issues, and we will be doing that. And guess what? We just had a guest.
Small man.
What's that up? You gonna say hello?
Renee.
Guess who came in?
That's what's happening in the podcast.
Say hi. Say hi. Look at the camera there. Watch the camera. Say hi. This is my big son.
This is what you call Must See TV.
Must See TV. What's your name?
For sure.
Alright. Mwah. Say bye-bye. Tell the camera bye-bye. Tell the camera bye-bye. Alright.
Nice.
Yeah, so where were we?
Before we get in, you're talking about the fact that as cannabis users,
right.
somebody could
so
be
a lot
illegal
of a lot of times what you're seeing on social media is about trying to categorize the user, trying to put the user in a particular to demonize him. I don't think that's fair, especially considering the fact that just a couple of weeks ago, Trinidad and Tobago has legalized or decriminalized cannabis.
This is where Taye and I diverge in opinion.
I am a cannabis advocate. I personally think
I have no issue with the use of cannabis. If I have no thing with the use of cannabis in your active daily life.
Not as an elite competitive.
The problem with it as an athlete is cannabis still is, even though there is a level, there's a minimum or maximum level that is allowed in your blood, becomes an illegal substance that will cause you to test positive or have an adverse analytical finding.
Just like caffeine, coffee, just like pseudoephedrine in your cold meds.
And one of the things with it is you, of course, like all these other things, you have to, as an athlete, you have to be responsible for what you put in your body. The bottom line about any athlete, regardless of who they are, and they will always tell you that in the end, the responsibility of what gets into your body is yours and nobody else's. Having said that, what adds to that scenario is what would have been at stake. At some point, somebody would have had to figure out or should have advised all of the athletes, everybody, that if you are using cannabis, especially with the laws coming in Trinidad and Tobago, that you can now legally use it. And I suppose even prior to it coming as a law, people were starting to, in social settings, be more accepting of it, of its use and so on, right? So no problem with that. But as a athlete or as an organization, athletes should have definitely been sat down with and told of what possible scenarios could happen and how it could affect, as in this case,
a team gold medal at a major hemisphere games.
And so therefore, in my humble view, I think the TTCF has failed in its responsibility to properly educate the riders.
Especially if we do go ahead with the assumption that there was a previous situation where
It
come.
is
That
no assumption.
usage
It came up in that will be confirmed. It came up in a general council. They asked the question. People made allegations, and they were asked to investigate. They were asked to make inquiries whether this was true or not. Even if those inquiries came back zero, let's say they made inquiries and everybody said no, we don't do it, right? And that's fine. That nothing is wrong with that. I am saying that the mere fact that inquiries were made, you should then go into an education mode.
Right.
Look, this.
So, ting.
Yeah, this is what, if you're going to do this, these are the possible scenarios, this is what we need to do, this is what so that you as an organization have done the responsible thing and make sure that your athletes are educated. I don't know why in this day and age we fail to educate people. That's one of the things I am just totally baffled by.
So, I thought that.
No, I mean not
We did. Alright, ready?
and then the other part about
hold on.
Alright, I'm holding on.
Alright. That's not. Right. The other part?
The other part about it that is, to me, interesting is over the last 3 years, $6+ million has been invested in this team.
Yes.
Of taxpayers' money.
Yes.
My money and your money. And all your money out there. I just pay VAT, I ain't nobody.
Yeah.
Right.
Taxpayers' money.
Taxpayers' money. I think that the organizations responsible should have been more responsible.
Alright, so where do you think they've abdicated their
if there was
responsibility?
we need to find out if it was brought up at a council, was it properly investigated? If it was properly investigated, was action taken? Was there recommendations to take action in terms of whatever that action was? Was those people who were charged with taking responsibility for those actions, did they actually take action? Was anything done? If not, why not?
Right. So these are the questions that we put to the president of the TTOC. Right. So we sent them via WhatsApp on Saturday. Was TTOC informed of the adverse analytical finding of any TTO cyclist at the PanAM Games? If yes, when? When was TTOC alerted of the possibility that the PanAM Games of the arbitration committee of the PanAM Games was planning to reallocate 2 cycling medals? Alright, and we already answered some of the other things there. Right.
They just did.
Hold on. Right. So the response was, I can't comment on the specifics of this particular case. Thank you for your understanding. As you would have noted, the matter has been appealed, and therefore the due process is still ongoing. Fair enough. Right. One of the questions, confidentiality. Oh no, this is a forward. This is not a response. Right? And that TTOC is not an active party in the matter.
And that Tyrone Marcus is not representing TTOC and or TTCF.
Right.
He is representing, as far as we understand, the athlete.
Right. So what does that say? It says that the Olympic Committee is not in a position to either say yes or no that they knew or not. Right? The Cycling Federation, through their PRO,
claiming they don't know.
Their PRO, right? Because generally speaking, what would happen?
Generally speaking, what would happen is
the
TTOC would have been informed at the game.
General Secretary usually vets all incoming, especially confidential incoming
and if not, the president would
correspondence.
And so, you know what? If either of those people were informed,
either the General Secretary
or the president,
and
they did not inform anybody else in the federation, they did their job.
I agree, because what is happening is, one, it's a pending matter. So that first notification would have been that this adverse analytical finding was reported, and it would have immediately been reported that this athlete has requested a B sample. And in the protocols, all of those things are by law confidential. And if that confidentiality is broken by anybody in the reporting chain, it is actually something that you can get sued for.
Yeah.
So right now what we're discussing is something outside of that legal responsibility. So Cycling Federation, in my opinion, have not abdicated their responsibility. This is a costly game. $5 million, $6 million, somewhere in that vicinity has been spent. Hold on. Yeah, my point though. The point that I'm making is that what has happened in the last maybe about 6 to 7 months out of a 3-year cycle where athletes, these same athletes, now remember, this same athlete, knowing that he got a dope positive, if you want to call it that, still training, still ride bike on no less than 4 occasions for the national team. So, I mean, this is not something that, boy, let me go and ride some bike today. No. This is a lot. I mean, Chris, let's give the jacket. Israel bike this man on the ride.
Yeah, but the rider is not the federation.
Hold on. What I'm saying is that this question of whether this money was properly spent, I can't remember. This money was properly spent or not is, I think it is not about whether the federation is responsible for how the money is spent, especially if you take them out of the reporting.
The problem with the responsibility of the federation isn't in this instance where they're reporting, or are they being reported to, or are they keeping the thing confidential. That's not a problem. I agree with that. The application of responsibility will have come prior to that and prior to the test, where they were made aware of a possibility that this situation is existing and needs to be inquired or investigated.
So at that point is where you saying they drop the ball.
They drop the ball because what you would have, can you imagine? I'm just saying, just think about it. The Dutch team, which is qualified for the Olympics, the manager come back and tells the head of the Dutch Cycling Federation that I think some of these guys might be smoking marijuana. You think they're just gonna say, yeah, well, you know what, let's leave that there now.
I really can't see a scenario where that would happen.
Never. That will just never fly. What will happen?
Cannabis has been legal in Amsterdam for quite some time.
And that's one of the reasons I picked that. So can you imagine, one of the things that would have happened there, when you can see, is that these cyclists would have been called to a meeting, they would have been spoken to, they would have been educated, number of things would have been dealt with, so that there was no possibility of that the fact that it could lead to a scenario where any of the riders test positive and or the team losing a medal, points, and a chance to go to the Olympics. It will never happen. In that regard, I think the people who needed to act did not act. And
so what's next, Chris? What's next? Because we understand as well that the athlete in question has
retired. That's alleged.
Another rumor that we've heard.
It is alleged that the man has retired. But listen, the coming back, the other things that we
let's be clear though. If that has been the case,
or is the case, if that's true,
if that is the case,
it's curious.
I think it's just a coincidence. Honestly, I want to give the rider the benefit of the doubt, because if you look at our episode 4 of Gameplan, what you would hear was the breakdown that Chris had put through before all of this was. Yeah. And that analysis was basically, we have a slim to none chance of this team qualifying for Tokyo.
I wouldn't.
It was slim to none, Chris.
It was slim to none. I had recommended on that last run. I will recommend again that I thought the team needed to switch because they had got to a plateau, and what I would have done, or what I might chance, because at this point you had to throw the dice. You're like a football game where you're 2-0 down and you have 5 minutes left. You're throwing everybody in.
Yeah.
You're bringing on 3 forwards.
You pull off all the defenders.
You're training 3 forwards on that.
That's the point where you see keeper pulling off jersey kind of thing.
I would have Bramble start, which is what he's been doing and doing well. I would have switched Justin and Nico. So Nico would run second leg and Justin would run third. And I would have had them trained in that manner for a while and I am of the opinion that they may have been able to now squeeze out another half a second, which
can I say something here?
Might make all the difference in points.
Brett's unretired.
That's what you want to say?
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Tokyo is not just a dream for us, we sports fans or you the athlete. This is something, you see this? All of we want that. And right now, it only have one man alone, who could really affect the kind of source to give us that fighting chance.
But
and my brethren,
you have to look at it deeper than that too. From my point of view, whether we, as a team, whether we succeeded or failed, and I have criticized the team and I have criticized the federation on many occasions, right? I'm free to do that. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But in the end, despite my criticism, everybody take it personally, and you shouldn't take it personally. The matter at hand for me with the team is, it's a team that is representing Trinidad and Tobago, and it's more than just where you end up in a race. It's the fact that you are an inspiration to another generation.
A lot.
It's the fact that you are showing that with limited resources, so much can be accomplished.
Miracles.
It's the fact that we need, or if Trinidad can get its act together in terms of providing proper systems and all of the above, then there's no doubt that we have the requisite talent to make many more bids, right? The Cycling Federation is a lame duck. There's no development plan, no marketing plan, no single
president
plan,
at the moment.
no president at the moment. Most of them is.
Do you think he knew?
I think he knew. Most of them is a bunch of cretins.
Watch episode 4.
Most of them is a bunch of cretins, don't know what they're doing, and they
Watch
can be
episode 4.
But having said all of that, in the end, when having traveled so far along this journey with so much at stake for and athletes do it for themselves firstly, and then for country and maybe different people after. But having traveled so far, I would say at this point, no, don't give up.
Don't.
No, I would say give it full gas to the end, and win, lose or draw, you know what? You reach the end.
Yeah.
If it is that we finish 9th and we don't qualify to the Olympics, I would have rather been able, I suppose it would be nice to say, look, you know what? We gave every single thing, we tried every single thing, we did the best we could, we finished 9th, 8 teams were better than us, but I would still consider that a successful campaign.
Yeah.
In my view.
Considering that I have 230 countries in the world,
And
only 8 better than you.
I've stressed this point in episode 4. We are the only country with a population the size of ours, less than 1.5 million people, that has a team. There are many other countries with riders. Suriname has a rider, or this country has
Malaysia,
a rider.
rider.
Hungary has a rider, or this one has a rider. We actually have a team, and so that tells you how far along we are on the talent pool and how hard these guys have worked. So I would have just say, look, you know what, we're going full gas. Yeah, and when we reach the end, we reach the end. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that, sometimes some of the riders, I have found some of the riders still have a little chip on their shoulder. And you just need to knock that chip off and realize when you're doing it for yourself, doing it for the country, just give it a best smile. Don't take nothing personal and just be happy.
Yeah, and the other person that I want to talk to is the politicians. Don't make this an elections thing. Don't squeeze the federation. Don't squeeze these athletes. This is a wake-up moment for us. You understand? This is a wake. This is when you put on your big man pants. You understand? Because what we have here is a learning moment, right? A teaching moment where we can say, this is how we have to project this thing going forward, right? And in my personal opinion, you are an important part of that dialogue, that conversation going forward. So, stay tuned. I think we covered everything that we needed to cover.
I think we covered everything that we needed to cover. I think what we are hoping for, what everybody is hoping for is a speedy resolution, but we don't think that's going to happen. What we're hoping for is, if it's not a speedy resolution, I'm hoping that CAS come back with a decision September 2020.
And in the meantime, you can ride all your bike.
In the meantime, you ride all your bike, and then when they do come back with a decision, they say, "But yeah, we're going on. Just take a few slap on your wrist and go your way."
Because at the end,
don't let it happen again.
It's not crank.
And don't let it happen again. And that is really what I am hoping for. And then the other thing I'm hoping for from all of this is that the Federation gets its act together, that they have a real discussion with the riders, and that the riders themselves understand that their responsibility is not just to themselves but to a federation and a country as a whole, and therefore your actions need to have, every time you decide you're doing anything, you need to start to think about all of those things before you do anything, and realize that even though it's not always the case, your actions do have far-reaching consequences, and the more, as I like to say, the higher up you go, the more responsibility you have. And if responsibility is the only source of happiness in life.
And with that, all we want to say is that we're going to be doing more of these types of shows, not just talking about sports in general. We're going to try and tackle some of the big issues in Trinidad and Tobago sport. So as usual, if you like it, subscribe, share, talk about it. We love the comments. Thank you, Marlon, for the comments. We really appreciate the feedback. Positive, negative. If you don't like it, come and tell us why.
But you ain't gonna like it because we smart.
Right?
We're intelligent fellas. I ain't even going to bother to argue that.
Right? So this is what's happening, right? So we relying on you, right? We don't have any money to boost this. We don't have money to put nothing. We don't even have nothing like that. So what's going to happen is things built because you support our project. So thank you very much for watching the show.
Thank you very much for watching the show.
On behalf of Chris and of course my little big son who you'd have seen popping in.
I hope you had a good holiday season, and I'm wishing you, all the people out there,
a full Zoas 2020.
Yeah, best wishes for 2020, man.
Alright, so thanks and we out.
We out.